Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. Tonight's guest is somebody who's making his first appearance on my show. He's the co-host of the Sports Dudes podcast. I was on his show about 12 days ago, and now it's his turn to come on my show. James Celestin, how do you pronounce your name?
It's Celestin. You got it right the first time, actually.
Okay. How are you doing on this fine night?
Oh, I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm good. So, a lot of sports storylines that we can get to right now, but I want to start with the biggest story in sports, which was what took place at the Daytona 500 the other day. Ryan Newman has that terrible crash, and he survives it, obviously, and he is released from the hospital. What was your reaction to the crash, and what were you thinking as the whole thing was playing out?
When that was playing out, it got me thinking of Dale Earnhardt Jr., honestly, when that happened.
Dale Sr.
Dale Sr., sorry. I was thinking, Dale Sr. is what I was thinking, and I was like, oh, please don't be a Dale Sr. situation. Please don't be that. And I don't follow much on NASCAR, and I try to touch most of it on when I do my show. So, but when I heard about that, that was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, oh, man, we don't need this. We don't need this. And then, luckily, he's okay, and thank God for that. So we're lucky to have him breathing. So we're good. We're good enough to coordinate so that's why I'm glad that he's all right.
Yeah, I'm happy that he's alive too, obviously. There's a really nice picture trending on the internet of him and his two daughters, which made my heart happy, and he's been released from the hospital. And what curious is to me is to what his injuries are. They have not come out and said publicly what his injuries were, so that's a little concerning to me. What do you make of them not saying what his injuries are, or do you just think that he's just flat out okay?
I think it's flat out okay. I think it's probably like standard procedure. I think later on, they'll probably reveal more into what his actual injuries were. But I think he's okay. I mean, the important thing is he's okay and he's talking. So, I mean, it was a little weird, yeah, but I think that's what I think. I think he's fine.
Yeah, I think he's okay too, and hopefully, if there is any injuries, let's hope it's not like super, super severe. And I would expect that he probably will miss a little bit of the season because just to recover and whatnot, because like that was just a very severe injuries. Like I've seen NASCAR drivers miss some time due to injuries before. He'll probably miss a little while. So just hope that he gets well soon and gets back to racing before we know it. The second biggest story in sports happened. The news was breaking on Monday night that this was a possibility, but it became official last night via a tweet from Adrian Wojnarowski, the great Woj. John Beilein has resigned as the head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. What do you make of that situation? And do you think that it was just a hard adjustment for him to go from college? Meanwhile, Billy Donovan's thriving in the NBA, and he was a college coach as well. I just think it depends on like the situations and whatnot that you're placed in, and the people around you and the organizations.
We've always talked about organizations that are dysfunctional from like the head down, and when you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, they are probably the most dysfunctional group there is. So I really think that this group is dysfunctional. I think that this group is bad, and I think any coach that goes there, I pray for them because they're just up to fail. They're just organizations they're just bad just because of, I don't know if it's the ownership or it's just something about it. I just feel like he was destined to fail from the start. I didn't know why he would leave Michigan, who, by the way, went to, if I'm not mistaken, two championship appearances, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yes, 2 national title appearances under John Beilein.
So I didn't like it from the start, and honestly, I think that it's dumb on their part. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion.
John Beeline, I think it was a good basketball coach, but he just wasn't built for the NBA. Like, he's better off in college. He's 67 years old. He was reassigned in the Cavaliers organization. He's going to be within the front office, apparently, and then J.P. Bickerstaff is taking over. Bickerstaff, obviously, took over for Kevin McHale when he was fired from the Rockets and took over for David Fizdale, and Fizdale was let go by the Memphis Grizzlies a few years ago. So Bickerstaff has experience, and I think he'll get the Cavs at least play a little better, and I wonder if he'll be the full-time coach going forward. What are your thoughts on J.P. Bickerstaff?
I don't really know much about JP. I know he gets fined in Memphis, but he should do all right. It's just a really bad situation in Cleveland. It's really, really bad. I mean, the team is just bad. They're the worst team in the East. I mean, they can play a little bit competitive, but we'll see. I don't think he's a long-term coach going forward, in my opinion. But that team is just bad from the top down.
Yeah, I don't think he's the real guy going forward either. We'll see if he ends up getting the intern tag removed or not and getting the job full-time. The Astros cheating scandal continues to dominate the sports world, too. That is probably the biggest story in sports. But the last 2 days it's been Ryan Newman and the Beeline stuff. But the Astro thing is still popular. But to me, the biggest voice that's responded to this situation so far has been LeBron James. And he had some comments to say about Rob Manfred. What did you make about what LeBron had said?
I like what LeBron said, and I know it's obvious. LeBron is like the big presence in sports, but I like what he said, and I think what he said is kind of true. Is that you're not really having a punishment, and I get that the players are so. I think what LeBron said is absolutely true. It's correct. I think honestly that it was a weak punishment, and I think it's shameful that what Manfred did, especially that you're having other athletes. I have LeBron James, the biggest athlete, not only just in basketball and sports, call MLB out on their stuff. I think it's apparent how big this scandal is, and I applaud LeBron for that. I'm not the biggest LeBron fan, but I appreciate some of the comments that he made.
Yeah, I like what LeBron said, too. It's an unpopular opinion, but I do agree. I like what LeBron said, and I like that he spoke up about it. And I appreciate him just really just expressing how he feels about this and, like, saying if this happened to me or against me, I'd be pissed off. And I really like when other sport athletes have things to say about other sports situations. To me, that's just pretty fun sometimes. And obviously more baseball players are responding to this. Cody Bellinger made the comment about how he robbed the Dodgers they robbed the Dodgers of a World Series, and then Altuve robbed Judge of an MVP. And then Judge called Altuve's tattoo gate or something like that. And then Correa was trash talking. What do you make of all the players, the baseball players, speaking up about this?
Oh man, I've never seen players have that much vitriol over one team because of that. And it's funny because people are saying, and I see the tweets, oh, well, other teams are doing it. I don't think if other teams were doing it, they would speak out as much as like players like Bellinger and Judge and Stanton are. I really think that this is a really, really big deal, and I think it goes to show that how players are really ticked off. They are extremely angry about this. I've never seen players that much angry, and kudos to them for that. I think it goes to show you that players are not taking this line down. I think, and it's funny because Manfred made a statement that people intentionally hurt the Astros or they're going to be faced with punishments. But trust me when I say this, I don't think the players are going to care. I really don't think so. I think they're going to police themselves, considering the fact that they did a bad job of policing themselves. I think that's what's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. There was a number set out by Caesars Sportsbook of 83.5 for Astros batters hit by pitch. I would take a lot of money and place the over on that one for the season. Would you join me on that one?
Oh yeah, definitely the over. I think players are going to pick up the tabs on this one. It's definitely going to be the over. There's going to be a lot of tabs picking up.
Yeah, I feel like
definitely bet the over on this one.
I would bet. Oh, if there was a prop out for the first game of the season for the Astros, over under 1.5 hit batsman, Astro hit batsman, I'd bet the over. Like, I really think that their first opponent is going to come firing at them. It's just too bad that the Yankees don't see them until May and September. I just wish they saw them in April and then in June or something like that.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. I totally agree.
Yeah, that's just a fun thing to follow. 83.5 as the over-under for the season for Astros hit by pitch batsmen. So I just wanted to bring that up to you. And speaking of cheating, the other team that cheated was the Boston Red Sox back in 2018. Rob Manfred said in the press conference earlier in the week that the penalty will be handed down possibly by the end of this week. What do you think we'll see from the Red Sox side of things in terms of their possible punishment?
I think it's probably going to be light, considering the fact that it's not going to be as heavy as the Houston is. So I would probably think they're probably going to go light on Boston. Probably just maybe like a drop pick and like a minor fine. Nothing too severe, in my opinion.
I agree with you, but I think what's coming for Alex Cora could be significant because he was obviously heavily involved in the Astro side of it. Do you think that they'll possibly do something with Carlos Beltran even though the Mets fired him? Like, do you think that he gets some sort of suspension or anything?
Yeah, he's definitely going to get suspended. Definitely. I totally agree. He was the ringleader.
I think it's more likely that Cora does than Beltran, although that the recent report saying that Beltran was like the ringleader in all this. And I think the Mets did the right thing by firing him, to be honest, because if he was still the manager of that team, it'd be a heavy, 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 heavy distraction. And now that that's gone, I think that that distraction is going to be gone for the Mets, unlike for the Houston Astros and even the Red Sox a little bit, but not as much as Houston. Some concerning Yankee injury news emerging in spring training with Aaron Judge's shoulder. They're going to sit him the first spring training game. Do you think that this lingers into the middle of spring training and possibly into the season?
Considering the fact that I'll be down there this week, I kind of feel I'd love to lean towards no, but I have a good feeling it will because Aaron Judge has an injury history, and I think that this will probably lean very, very, very heavily into the season. So I think this is definitely going to something that lingers definitely because he has a high injury history, and due to the fact that Judge has not stayed healthy since his rookie year, I think that this will definitely linger into the regular season, in my opinion.
I think there's a chance it does as well. To me, depends on how the Yankees treat this and how Judge treats it as well. He came back much sooner than I expected after the hit by pitch. Or not the hit by pitch. It was when he got injured last year, when he missed some time, and he came back sooner than I expected. I thought he'd be back in July or August, but he ended up coming back in June. When he got hit by the pitch against the Royals, Jacob Junis, a couple years ago, he came back later than expected, and then last year he came back earlier than expected. So we'll see. I think that he'll certainly be back before James Paxton, that's for sure. James Paxton's not going to be until June. Judge, I think we'll see him in March during spring training.
Oh yeah. Remember they shut him down for the week, and just for precautionary, I believe Boone asked if he was ready. He said he'd be game time ready. So a joke there, but I'm going to be honest. I think that this one more lingers, and I think with the whole Paxton, remember, Paxton had a cyst removed. So when you're dealing with spine and back, those are kind of tricky. So you kind of really don't want to rush this. You don't want to rush it. You don't want to come in there and rush this, because if you rush it, then you're going to mess up, especially with back. Backs tend to take time. And with backs, those things are that's your career, that's your livelihood. So I think they're going to take it very precautionary with Paxton, especially because in the first month of the season, they're probably not going to be reliant on Paxton because their schedule kind of softens, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's not really necessarily a dire need. I think whoever wins that fifth stock could probably eat up some wins. They could eat up some wins for Paxton. I think they could eat up a lot of wins, and I think that would be easier. So I'm not looking at this. I'm looking at this as, you know what, the first month and a half of the season is not that tough, and you have Baltimore. I mean, I know Tampa's going to be here and there, but you don't really have a lot of like world beaters, like teams that you can't really beat. So let Paxton take his time, get right, and then when he comes in fully healthy, I think that it'll be all guns a blazing. So, which is kind of reason why that they didn't trade J Hat, which I can kind of understand why looking back at it.
Yes,
so
exactly.
I think that was really smart on the Yankees' part to not trade James Paxton. And I was wondering why. I mean, you could trade James Paxton, and with the Yankees, with the Yankees' ability to have depth, which has always been a big thing because they've always had depth. I think this is kind of setting well for the Yankees to, like, when Paxton does come back and say Hap is having a good season, you can actually trade Hap for other players going forward because it's a long season. You never know what you're going to need because injuries happen. There's always a need, and teams are always making trades at the trade deadline. So I personally think, though, that the Yankees are going to be fine with or without. They're still going to have the best record in the American League. They're still going to win 97-plus games. So I'm not really worried at all, honestly.
Yeah, me neither. To me, like, the only red flag would be if Garrett Cole got injured or if Judge was out, like, into the season, like, into, like, May, June. So I think they'll be fine as well. Let's switch over to the NHL. Your favorite team, the New York Islanders, made a trade for Andy Green to shore up their defense a little bit. They need a top six guy. We discussed that on your podcast as a top six forward for
Yes, they do.
The playoff run as well. What do you make of the Green trade, and who do you think are possible targets for the Islanders come Monday's deadline?
Here's the thing. I'm okay with Andy Green trade. He provides help in the defensive pellet for the season, so I'm okay with it. He's familiar with Lou, so I'm perfectly fine with this. So it doesn't really bother me. As far as the top six forward, the name that I really want is JP Pajot from Ottawa or Anthony Duclair. So I really think, though, that those are the guys that I'm really looking forward to going forward. So those are the guys that I want. There's really no other person that I'm looking at. I mean, I really wanted Tyler Toffoli. That's who I actually wanted. I really wanted Tyler Toffoli, but he got traded to Vancouver, and Alex Martinez was a guy that I was really interested in, but he also got traded to Vegas. So I'm looking at either Duclair, who's having an all-star season, or I'm looking at JP Pajot, because the Islanders really need it. They're on the verge of missing the playoffs, and the fact that you came on my show and you had the Islanders missing the playoffs, it was looking more right, and it kind of bothers me because they're so good, they're so talented, they shouldn't be missing the playoffs. They are talented enough to make the playoffs, and the fact that they're on the verge of missing it, it's not okay. So I really think that if they don't add a top six forward by Monday's deadline, then the Islanders are going to be be big trouble because they're having trouble scoring goals. You know that they only scored one goal so far on this road trip. One goal.
That's crazy.
And that was off of an Andy Green deflection.
It's
really bad.
That's crazy.
Right now. It's really bad for the Islanders right now.
Yeah, I think the best fit would be Paggio. He's having a career year. I'm not the biggest Anthony Duclair fan. He was somebody that was a Rangers prospect early on in his career, got off to that hot start, and then they packaged him away for Keith Yandel to Arizona. Underachieved in Arizona, then got shipped off to, I believe, Chicago. Then he was good in Chicago, and then Chicago shipped him to Ottawa. And then
he's had an all-star year in Ottawa.
And he's been good in Ottawa. You're right. He's had a nice year. He's had a nice year in Ottawa, but I'm just not the biggest Anthony Duclair fan. Although he would be a nice ad for you guys, but I think the Paggio fit would be a little bit better. That's just my opinion because he's also had a career year as well. Who do you think has been the best pickup by an NHL team so far prior to the deadline?
Best pick. I mean, you would have to say right now. I know they're not in it, but man, that is tough. I mean, the best pickup. The Zucker trade. I really that. I didn't like it at first, but he's paying real dividends for Pittsburgh. Especially he's on the top line right now with Crosby. I really like that. I think that's an excellent pickup for Pittsburgh. Because Pittsburgh is going to have to really think about the future because shit is getting older. Malkin's like, I like it. I think they're trying to give them the crack at it for those guys. So I'm for it.
Yeah, the Jason Zucker pickup was a good one. That was probably among the best ones. I think the Blake Coleman pickup was smart. He's having a career year. And the Devils, I really think, got a nice package back. I think that the Devils could end up winning that trade down the road, but I do like the Coleman pickup for Tampa Bay. But I agree with you that the Zucker pickup, I think, has been the best one so far. Although I do like what the Wild got back in return. They got the first-round pick, Kalen Addison, the young defenseman that was a first-round pick. And then they have Alex Galchenyuk, somebody that's really underachieved as an NHL player, whether it was Montreal, Arizona, Pittsburgh, and now he's in Minnesota. The NBA second half begins tomorrow night. What is something that you are looking forward to?
I'm looking to see how LeBron reacts when see how he responds, especially with the Clippers are all loaded up. So I'm interested to see how he responds going forward. That's kind of like the one thing that I am really interested in. So that's one of the keys that I'm looking for. I'm also interested to see how Milwaukee continues its momentum. And another thing is Boston. Boston is that team that they're really talented, but I'm intrigued what they're going to do. I mean, they're not as talented as Milwaukee or Toronto, but they are very interesting. So, yeah, so that's what I'm interested in. What about you?
I'm looking forward to how the Eastern Conference playoffs seeding between 2 through 6 plays out. Milwaukee's obviously going to be number 1. Number 2, between 2 through 6 is either going to be in some order Toronto, Boston, Miami, Indiana, Philadelphia. Indiana's been in a little bit of a free fall. Philly's been up and down. Toronto just had that big winning streak snapped last week. Miami traded for Andre Iguodala. Boston stood pat. So I'm just interested to see who gets hot these last couple weeks of the season. Who is a team that can avoid some major injuries. And I'm fascinated to see how 2 through 6 comes out in the East because for the first time in a long time, we're going to have a fun first round in the Eastern Conference playoffs with those top 6. So,
how long has that been? How long has that been when we can actually say, "Oh my God, I'm looking forward to the first round matchup of the Eastern Conference"?
Probably at least since the Knicks were in it back in 2013, honestly, or maybe a 1 year after that when it was Kevin Garnett and Pierce on Brooklyn, and then Toronto was up and coming. I'm trying to think of who. Paul George was on Indy. LeBron was still on Miami. The Bulls were still good. I mean, 2013-14 Eastern Conference wasn't that bad in terms of playoffs, but like this is even better than that in terms of talent. 1 through 6 is as good as it's been in a very long time. Probably since like in the earlier last decade, like 2010, 2011, maybe even 2012, where we've seen like this much depth in the East.
Well, you have the two bottom feeders. I wouldn't call the net. I don't want to call the Nets a bottom feeder because because the Nets are like waiting for. Nets are waiting for their guy. Okay, so I really think though that I'm thinking that Orlando, Detroit, whoever's battling for that 8th spot is. So that's why I'm thinking that the East is going to be fun, especially the second round matchup. The West is always going to be fun, and I'm interested to see what John Morant does in the playoffs out West.
That's if they make it.
Ooh, you're right.
That's if they make it. It's not a guarantee. Portland played well coming into the All-Star break. Zion's back for New Orleans. I think that 8 seeds between Memphis, New Orleans, and Portland. Oh, and then San Antonio too, but I really don't feel as strong about them as I do with those other 3 teams.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for Pop. I really do. And then I feel that Pop could really use, Pop could really use should retire at this point, and I love Pop to death. I think it's time. He has been really, really been. He's been, there, and his teams are not getting any good, so he was definitely my take.
Yeah, I feel for Pop too, but I think it was coming no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So, we'll see how it plays out for the Spurs at the end of the season. If Popovich retires or he comes back, and if they trade DeRozan and Aldridge or not. But we'll save that conversation for the offseason. Couple things before we go. Saturday night is a humongous fight. You have Tyson Fury against Wilder.
Wilder versus Fury, yes.
Who do you like if in that fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder? Who do you think wins that?
Ooh, I like Fury.
Me too.
I really like Fury. Here's the thing: if Deontay doesn't get him in the first 3-4 rounds, it's over. Deontay's one of those like quick jabs. Go for the finishing early. That's Wilder's game, whereas Fury is methodical. I think Fury's going to withstand the blows that Wilder's going to give him, and it's going to go longer. I think it's going to probably be I'm calling 9th, 10th round TKO, and I think Fury's going to win. If it's not a TKO, Fury's going to win by points. I just think that Fury is the most technically sound and better fighter. I think that's just my opinion. I think that Fury is more technically sound, and the way that he moves in the ring for a big guy, he's pretty nimble for a big guy. So that's who I got. So I got to put money down. Put money on Fury.
Yeah, I'm with you on Fury as well. I think it's going to be a great fight on Saturday night. This is probably the fight I've been most looking forward to, probably since McGregor and Mayweather back in August of 2017. It's been a very long time since I've been so fired up for a fight like this.
And also, before we finish up, it's funny that you mentioned that because you're getting 2 guys in their prime. Only the last time we had 2 boxers in their prime fighting in the heavyweight division.
I have no idea. Probably that.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping it's a good fight. I'm hoping that it doesn't disappoint. I hope that it's not one of those fights where, like, if Wilder wins in, like, the 3rd or 4th round, I feel like I'm wasting my money. That's just my opinion, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to it as well, and I can't wait to put a little wager on Fury, who's actually an underdog in this fight for whatever reason. Before we go, I want you to promote your podcast, Sports Dudes.
Thank you. Yeah. You guys can catch me on the Sports Dudes. Me, my co-host Nick, we do talk about a variety of sports. We're fun, good banter. We talk everything, major news. So we're not just Yankee centric. We talk all sports all the time. So you guys can catch us there. We're also available now on Apple Podcasts everywhere, on Spotify, on Anchor, wherever podcasts are there, you can catch us there. And also, self-plug here, if y'all love hockey, I also do a hockey podcast called Puck Love, which I'll be dropping an episode Monday to recap all the trades that the trade deadline has happened. So that's pretty much it. I'm self-plug for me and self-plug for my show. So y'all know where to find us. Same place. We're available everywhere. Google, Google, Apple, Spotify, wherever you want to find us, listen to us there. I promise you will not regret it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that hockey podcast too. I'll certainly tune into that. And tomorrow I'll be having John Buchacross from ESPN on my show to preview the NHL trade deadline and to discuss any surprise names that could be on the move. And we'll probably just recap the season so far as well, because I haven't had him on since the day the season started back in October. So should be a fun show with him. And then obviously I'll do a NHL trade deadline special recap show on Monday afternoon to recap all the trades as well.
Likewise, and then hopefully I'll have you on my show, and we can also talk recap of the hockey season going forward. And last thing before I go, Henrik, I have a feeling it's going to end nasty. So keep your eyes on what's going to happen with Henrik Lundqvist. It's not going to end pretty. We're not going to get an Eli Manning send-off with the Giants. It's going to end nasty for you Rangers fans. So I would keep a close eye on what Gordon and Davison do with Henrik once we post the trade deadline. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's funny because I personally didn't think that he was going to get traded, but like there's more and more and more buzz about it because there's always that thought that Henrik would never waive his no-move clause. And on the flip side, I've heard from people that are closer to the situation that the Rangers tried to trade him, but Lundqvist wouldn't waive his no-move clause, and it could be headed the other way. So that's very fascinating. I think that's the biggest storyline before the trade deadline, honestly. So that's a good call by you, James. So it was a pleasure to have you on today, and hopefully I'll get you on next month. Maybe before the NCAA tournament, we'll do brackets.
Oh, absolutely. You definitely got to get on my show with that because what I want to do is do a bracket preview. Once all the teams are locked in, definitely hop on my show. We can do bracketology. We can preview the brackets of each region, and then we can talk about some Cinderella teams. So we can because me and my co-host are doing a bracket wager against each other. So you can give us each some tips to what to do. So looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great night.
You too. Take care, Madison.